she is now a Disney princess.
EV Magazine wrote on X, when you compare how Rachel Zegler spoke about Snow White to how other actresses who played live-action Disney princesses spoke about their character, really underlines just how poorly she carried herself.
Some people who know a lot of films do it in a way where they're like, oh, you haven't seen?
She destroyed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of IP for Disney, but she also has destroyed her career and the careers of anybody who worked on the movie.
Disney, the undisputed kingdom of animated dreams, has recently found its crown tilting precariously. A string of live-action remakes, once guaranteed box office gold, have yielded diminishing returns and increasingly critical reviews. Think of recent ventures that, while visually spectacular, lacked the soul and spark of their animated predecessors, leaving audiences feeling more nostalgic than enchanted. Then came the studio's ambitious attempt to reimagine Snow White, a project that, instead of enchanting a new generation, ignited a firestorm of controversy and ultimately faltered at the box office. Millions were invested, anticipation was high, but the final product landed with a resounding thud, leaving a chilling effect across the studio. Now, in a move that stunned Hollywood and sparked fervent debate, Disney isn't just revisiting the poisoned apple, they're entrusting it to Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie, the actress whose redefined on-screen charisma, leaping from the manic energy of Harley Quinn to the vibrant empowerment of Barbie, is now poised to embody the fairest of them all. But is this casting a stroke of audacious genius, a calculated masterstroke to reclaim lost magic? Or is it a high-stakes gamble, a desperate throw of the dice to salvage the legacy of Snow White and perhaps Disney's own faltering fairy tale formula? The question hangs heavy in the air. Can Robbie truly conjure the enchantment needed to rescue Snow White and restore the shimmering reputation of the House of Mouse?
Weekend 2 delivers even more box office humiliation for Snow White.
The previous Snow White project, headlined by Rachel Zegler, was intended to be a bold, contemporary reimagining. However, it quickly morphed into something far more tumultuous than a simple box office underperformance. It became a cultural flashpoint, a case study in how even the most beloved stories can stumble when their essence is perceived to be lost in translation. Whispers of conflicting creative visions and a perceived dissonance between the film's messaging and the source material swelled into a chorus of online dissent. The backlash wasn't just about plot points or character choices, it touched upon deeper anxieties about how classic tales are being adapted for a modern audience. Critics pointed to a perceived lack of emotional depth, a deviation from the original's charm, and a tone that felt jarringly out of sync with the fairy tale genre. Audiences echoed these sentiments, expressing disappointment and a sense of disconnect from the story they thought they knew and loved. The financial repercussions were stark and undeniable. The film struggled to recoup its massive budget, becoming a cautionary tale of how even the most iconic intellectual property can falter when audience expectations are misjudged. The once gleaming fairy tale image of Disney took a visible dent, leaving the studio scrambling to mend the cracks and recapture the lost enchantment.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
That laugh.
That is
not going to be saved by the
You wrote
prince.
it?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
But Disney, a corporate behemoth built on resilience and reinvention, isn't one to passively accept defeat. In a move demonstrating both agility and a clear sense of urgency, they didn't simply shelve Snow White. They initiated a complete and immediate course correction. The announcement of a new project, positioned not as a sequel or a mere reboot, but as a comprehensive reconstruction, spoke volumes. This wasn't just about tweaking a script or recasting a role, it was a signal of a fundamental shift in approach, a deliberate pivot back to the core values and storytelling principles that defined Disney's golden age. Industry insiders describe it as a studio-wide acknowledgement of past missteps and a commitment to regaining the trust of moviegoers who felt disillusioned by the previous adaptation. For Disney, the stakes are exceptionally high. Fairy tales aren't just a genre for them, they are foundational to the studio's identity, a cornerstone of their brand. To falter in this domain is to risk undermining the very magic that has captivated generations. This new Snow White project, therefore, is not merely about making a successful film, it's about a strategic imperative to reaffirm Disney's mastery of the fairy tale, to rebuild audience confidence, and to restore the enchanting allure that defines the House of Mouse.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
Then the casting bombshell, Margot Robbie as Snow White. The announcement reverberated through Hollywood, sparking a mixture of surprise, intrigue, and outright excitement. At first glance, Robbie might appear an unconventional choice, a departure from the traditionally demure and innocent portrayal of the character. Her filmography is studded with roles that are complex, often edgy, and decidedly modern. Could this actress, celebrated for her fierce independence and sharp wit, convincingly embody the gentle sweetness and fairy tale purity of Snow White? Yet beneath the initial surprise lies a stroke of strategic brilliance. Margot Robbie isn't just a box office draw, she's a chameleon-like performer capable of inhabiting a vast spectrum of characters. Her post-Barbie supernova status has catapulted her into a realm of global recognition and undeniable influence. Disney is shrewdly leveraging this star power, betting that Robbie's magnetic presence, combined with her underappreciated capacity for nuanced emotional depth, can draw audiences back to the Snow White narrative. Furthermore, Robbie brings a level of contemporary relatability and grounded authenticity that could actually enhance the character, making her innocence feel less naive and more like a conscious choice of kindness in a complicated world. The gamble is audacious, undeniably, but it's also infused with a calculated genius that suggests Disney might just be on the verge of something truly transformative. But can even Robbie, with all her undeniable talent and charisma, truly capture the ethereal essence of Snow White, a character so deeply ingrained in the collective imagination?
I could sort of feel the edges of truth everywhere. Young Rachel Zegler, I would say, probably is at the point where she's believing in the excitement of it all. And who can blame her? Who can blame her? Because it is very exciting to be told you're brilliant all day long if some point in the past you felt that you were worthless, as I did.
This time around, the creative compass at Disney is pointing resolutely back to the origins, back to the timeless magic that defined the 1937 animated masterpiece. The studio's messaging is clear. Forget deconstruction, forget radical reinvention. The guiding principles for this new iteration are charm, romance, whimsy, music, and moral clarity, the very elements that propelled the original Snow White into cinematic immortality. Insiders whisper of a conscious effort to recapture the emotional resonance of the animation, to evoke the same sense of wonder and enchantment that captivated generations. Imagine costume designs that echo classic fairy tale silhouettes, not hyper-modern interpretations. Picture sets inspired by enchanting European storybook villages, imbued with a heightened sense of realism and visual splendor. Early glimpses of concept art and animation tests reportedly showcase a return to a painterly aesthetic, rich in detail and evocative of the original's hand-drawn charm. This is a deliberate and visually striking departure from the previous film's more stylized and, to some, less emotionally engaging approach. It's a clear indication that Disney is not just listening to audience feedback, but actively recalibrating its creative strategy, aiming to deliver a Snow White that feels both familiar and freshly enchanting. But can simply recreating the aesthetic and tone of the past truly resonate with contemporary audiences? Or is there a risk of feeling derivative and lacking in genuine innovation?
I was looking at the chat, and some of you guys were like, we need a few less Snow White-like movies. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, all this woke stuff has to end.
I mean, journalists weren't even invited to show up at the red carpet for the premiere because they were afraid she was going to say something that would hurt the movie even more.
One of the loudest and most persistent critiques leveled against the prior Snow White adaptation centered on its perceived departure from the original story spirit, with some voices expressing concern that it had become overly focused on contemporary social agendas at the expense of timeless storytelling. While Disney isn't explicitly addressing these critiques head-on, the strategic shift is palpable. Sources within the studio suggest a conscious decision to steer clear of overt politicization in this remake, opting instead to emphasize universal themes of courage, compassion, and the enduring struggle between light and darkness. The emphasis is now firmly placed on emotional resonance and narrative clarity, aiming to craft a film that speaks to the heart and transcends generational divides. Crucially, Disney is also reportedly exercising exceptional caution and deliberation in casting the Prince and the Evil Queen, recognizing the pivotal role these supporting characters play in grounding the narrative and ensuring a balanced dynamic. The studio is acutely aware of past criticisms regarding underdeveloped supporting characters and is determined to avoid repeating those missteps. This meticulous and thoughtful approach to casting and storytelling underscores a studio deeply committed to learning from past experiences, striving to deliver a Snow White that is not only visually stunning but also emotionally rich and narratively compelling.
And you know what? There's a reason for it to end right now, and it's in part because this stupid movie, Snow White, just totally bombed at the box office. They spent $270 million on this thing. They're not going to make their money back.
Hollywood became so confused over identity politics that it turned on itself, because insiders say the industry never held any true values.
This reimagined Snow White represents far more than just another entry in Disney's extensive film catalog. It's a high-stakes undertaking, a potential brand reset with significant implications for the studio's future. After a series of live-action remakes that have underperformed critically and commercially, Disney is acutely aware of the need for a resounding win, a project that can reignite audience enthusiasm and reaffirm their dominance in the family entertainment landscape. Margot Robbie's casting isn't just about injecting star power, it's about credibility, about signaling to both loyal fans and skeptical stakeholders that Disney still possesses the magical touch, the ability to craft enchanting stories that resonate deeply. For Robbie herself, this role is also a career-defining opportunity, a chance to not only embody an iconic character but also to potentially redefine her own public image, showcasing her versatility and solidifying her status as a true Hollywood powerhouse. She's stepping onto a tightrope stretched high above a chasm of expectation, carrying the weight of a beloved legacy and the pressure to deliver a performance that is both faithful and fresh. Ultimately, this Snow White project is shaping up to be a compelling redemption narrative, not just for the fairy tale itself, but potentially for Disney as a studio and for Robbie as an actress.
I think it's really on her to go back and correct the record now, because she was spreading a lot of fear and disinformation.
Everything has to be that. You know, this is a, and also what is beautiful about the original Snow White too is the hand-drawn animation, right? Is the beauty of the cartoon. Yeah, and it's really there's an authenticity to it.
No Disney fairy tale is truly complete without its enchanting music, and this new Snow White is poised to lean heavily into the whimsical and musical identity that defined the 1937 classic. The studio is reportedly investing significantly in a reimagined score, aiming to strike a delicate balance between paying homage to the original's unforgettable melodies and introducing fresh compositions that will resonate with contemporary ears. Imagine hearing echoes of "Someday My Prince Will Come" interwoven with entirely new musical themes, creating a soundtrack that feels both nostalgic and refreshingly modern. Disney understands that music is a powerful emotional conduit capable of bridging generational gaps and amplifying the fairy tale magic. Beyond Robbie, however, crucial casting decisions still loom large, particularly for the roles of the prince and the evil queen. These characters are pivotal in shaping the narrative's romantic and dramatic arcs, and their portrayals will be critical to the film's overall success. While names are currently shrouded in secrecy, speculation hints at Disney's intention to cast actors with comparable star power to Robbie, ensuring a balanced ensemble cast and avoiding the pitfalls of past remakes where secondary characters felt underdeveloped. The choices for Prince and Queen will be closely scrutinized by fans and critics alike, as they represent another key indicator of Disney's commitment to honoring the source material while injecting fresh energy into this beloved story.
Do these orgies of CGI animation, recycling in a loveless format, the exact same, now every story is the same story about, again, a kick-ass female protagonist.
Patience, it seems, will be a virtue for those eagerly awaiting this new Snow White. Production is slated to commence in early 2026, with a theatrical release tentatively set for spring 2028. A significant lead time that speaks volumes about Disney's deliberate and meticulous approach. This extended timeline stands in stark contrast to the rushed promotional cycle that arguably undermined the previous attempt, suggesting a studio determined to allow ample time for every aspect of production, from casting and filming to post-production and marketing, to be carefully considered and executed. Insiders suggest that Disney is consciously choosing a more reserved and emotionally grounded rollout, prioritizing the film's inherent quality and fairy tale charm over a potentially polarizing or over-intellectualized marketing campaign. Early reactions to the project, particularly the casting of Robbie and the hints of a return to classic visual and musical styles, have been largely positive, with many fans expressing cautious optimism and a renewed sense of hope. However, the long wait until 2028 will undoubtedly test audience patience and build anticipation to a fever pitch. Disney is essentially playing the long game, betting that a meticulously crafted and emotionally resonant Snow White, spearheaded by Margot Robbie and steeped in classic fairy tale magic, will ultimately be worth the wait and deliver the triumphant comeback they so desperately seek.
And now the producer's son is coming out and blaming the whole thing on Rachel Zegler. He's not wrong. I mean, Rachel Zegler tanked this. There's a lot of other reasons they tanked it.
And so the stage is set for a fairy tale revival unlike any other. Disney, humbled by past missteps, is placing its faith and a considerable fortune in Margot Robbie and a renewed commitment to the timeless magic of Snow White. Will this be the enchanting comeback story that both the studio and audiences are yearning for? Can Robbie truly embody the spirit of Snow White, bridging the gap between generations and reigniting the wonder of this classic tale? The answers remain veiled in the mists of time, hidden until the spring of 2028 when the curtain finally rises. But one thing is certain, all eyes in Hollywood, and indeed across the globe, will be watching. This isn't just about a movie, it's about a legacy, a brand, and the enduring power of fairy tales to capture our hearts and imaginations. Whether this new Snow White finds its happily ever after, becoming a cherished classic for a new era, or if it stumbles once more under the weight of expectation, remains to be seen. But the quest to re-enchant a tale as old as time is undeniably underway, and the world is waiting to believe in magic again.